Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we have my running partner and mountaineering partner. So let's hear from Aileen. Who is Aileen who's going to join us today?
Hello, that would be me. My name is Aileen, and Susan, it is a pleasure to join with you for this podcast. Right now, I'm living in Waltham, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. I am an unemployed physical therapist, and I'm blaming it on COVID-19. But other than that, life's okay. We're healthy. Got no complaints.
And you and I, we went to Mount Kilimanjaro. It was in 2012. How did we start this venture? People ask me, so now I want to hear from you. I think you started that venture, actually.
Yes, because it was a trip of a lifetime. You were the only one who said yes. None of my other friends had any inclination of wanting to climb Kilimanjaro, which was a bit disappointing, but knowing that you and I have spent so much time together and traveled a little bit here or there to do some marathons or to go skiing, I knew we were going to be a good fit. And it's very important if you're going to share a tent with somebody and rise up to 19,000 feet, that you know your hiking partner. So that's where it got started.
Really cool. And I remember we met in Amsterdam, right? So you flew out of Boston, I flew out of New York. And so we shared a tent together. We didn't have showers. A lot of people ask me, can you wash something? Can you take a shower? And I'm like, no, it's really basic. Probably in 8 or 9 days, no shower, no hair washing, no nothing.
And that part didn't really bother me. It was like refreshing because everybody else was in the same boat. It's not as if you felt like an outsider. And it gave you bragging rights, because when else in your life do you get like 12 or 14 days? We only have 2 showers over the course of 12 days and nobody thinks twice about it. But one of the things before we get to actually being in Africa, and you mentioned with flying, one of my most memorable memories was flying over Africa and over the Sahara Desert and like the extension of the desert. And you see it as you're growing up on maps around the world, but you don't really appreciate it until you see it from above and you're over it for so long. So that felt really cool that we were landing sub-Sahara into Africa, Tanzania. We get to the airport and there's no electricity. And there were those ladies in a pink, red sort of garment from a gown to the floor, from shoulders to the floor. And then they had a headpiece and they were all singing. And so they were singing greetings, some VIP, but we took it as if it was for us. At least I did. I was like, oh, how lovely of these African ladies to sing such a nice song. So it took the scariness out of electricity being off, because we knew ahead of time that was a possibility, that it's just not the same down there for electricity continuity as it is for our lives in the Western civilization. That was a really nice start, I thought.
I don't remember that. Isn't that funny? So we both go on the same trip and I don't remember that.
And it wasn't a big airport, so it's not like you could have missed it.
No. But it's somehow when people ask questions, maybe I remember this. You remember that?
Yes, I'm sure.
Isn't that interesting? So now we're in Africa. What's next? What is your memory that I don't have?
So we get to our 4 or 5 star hotel, which is not 4 or 5 star hotel from a Boston or New York perspective, but you can appreciate that it was really nice and it was clean and it was charming, until I go to the bathroom and there's this four-legged creature climbing up the wall. Do you remember that? Because you're the one that took me away from having a panic attack. You were like, it's just this. And I was like, oh, wow, welcome to Africa. This is what I'm going camping. I'm going up Kilimanjaro. I got to be able to tolerate a few little creepy crawly things. It was really an eye-opening. I signed on for this, and this is what you should be expecting.
This was only a little gecko. The gecko was welcoming you. I think that was the first night. And then the second night, we were in an outdoor hotel. I remember that fondly. It felt like 5-star, like out of Africa. What do you remember from that? And it was somebody's birthday, right? So you were drinking and having fun. And
it was Ross's birthday. Remember, he was turning 60 or 65 or something. So we had some wine, and they were platform tents with roll-up sides, and they were in a field. And it was just amazing. The type of place in travel magazines, and I never dreamed that I would be in one. And it was really just so airy, and it wasn't hot, and it wasn't buggy. It was just lovely. It was a real nice way to get your excitement a little under control and calm down and get a feel for the land and the climate and the people that you were going to be spending a lot of time with over the next 7 to 10 days as you were climbing with this same group of people. So I thought it was a nice way to meet everybody and have a glass of wine or have some giggles. And that part of the trip was really interesting too, like how we all got to know each other, got to know everybody's sort of good points and not so good points, and yet still have a camaraderie that we're a team to get to the top. Perfect strangers on one day, and then you're best friends a couple of days later. And I have never traveled in that way. I usually just do my own thing and travel individually. So having a whole team of people was really neat.
And it was a special group. Everybody was so different. Everybody had a different life story. And I remember those 2 or 3 people who were claiming they have climbed so many 10,000 feet mountains. And I was like, oh my God, I only grew up in Switzerland looking at the mountains. I thought that was pretty cool. And then we started climbing, and the tents. What is your memory? What I remember is we come to a place, the tent is there, and everything is perfect, and everything is made for us. That's what I remember always. Every night, everything was perfect.
It was always a mystery as to what dinner was going to be, for what meal was going to be served. And it was always amazing what they were able to put together. Remember having French fries like halfway up the mountain? They brought a boiler and some really good meals. And then you felt like you were being catered to in a very nice way. So you do the hard work doing the hiking and the climbing. And when I say hard work, I don't think it was that hard, but it was more than just sitting around. So you were going outside, being physically active, pretty tired from being in the fresh air and your excitement of seeing new things. And they were educating us on the terrain as we were going up, and you're talking to new people. And so you're trying to get to know them and they get to know you. So it's a very social day. And then when you get there and your tent is all made and your sleeping bag is rolled out, and we would usually just clean up a little bit and then go to the mess hall and some dinner and then play cards, right? No, we were like the hottest tent in the camp because there was just so much laughter coming out from that very wonderful game of Uno.
Yeah, I thought that was the coolest. So I actually spoke to John Beatty, and he has done all the 7 highest mountains in the world. And when I asked him, so what has happened on Kilimanjaro? They were also playing games. So playing games seems to be like a common thread among the mountaineers. That was probably the coolest. And our guides, they knew about Uno. They were laughing already, even though we didn't speak their language. So did we learn some language? Do you remember?
Pole, pole.
Slowly. And Safisana, everything okay? Safisana. Yeah. And a lot of people are asking, what was the most difficult on the Kilimanjaro?
I would say the most difficult aspect of it was not physically, but was emotionally, if you were going to make it to the top or not. If all that you worked towards getting trained, and if Mother Nature was going to be on your side, and if your team was going to be able to make it up to the top. And so once you got to the top and your mission was accomplished, it was like a completely different experience. It was just like going downhill. But there was a bit of worry that you wouldn't succeed. It's like when you're running the marathon and it's your first marathon and you're like, are your legs going to fall off at mile mile 20, or are they going to stay on? Because you never ran more than 20 miles for a marathon training. Is my heart going to jump out of my chest? Is my head going to blow up? I mean, my saturations got down to 61 and they're supposed to be 95 or above. And my heart rate was high at 126. And I'm like, but I felt fine. So it wasn't going to stop me. But all these factors would play into your head. Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? So we made it. That was really pretty cool.
And if people are asking you, so if people are deciding, I want to go to Kilimanjaro, what do you give them?
What I gave a friend who went after was advice that Q-tips, because you get sand and dust everywhere, and it really helped clean that up and made you feel a little bit more human when you don't have a shower every day. And you need to have your mask for breathing, good shoes. Oh, and a flag of some sort to put on your tent so that you'll be able to identify your tent like we had the Swiss flag on our tent. We had no trouble finding it amongst a lot of tents that all look the same. And I think a good book so that you have something to help settle your mind, and a deck of cards, and our little pint of whiskey that didn't hurt either.
I know this was some secret I didn't want to say, but since you mentioned it, we had a little pint with us, right?
Little pint, yes. Just a pint between the two of us. It was fun.
That was so cool. And you mentioned many times the team, right? So you're a physical therapist and you work in teams. Do you think you can transfer anything from the mountain climbing into your work?
I think what the connection I can make, the association, is getting along with different people in circumstances that might be challenging, that you don't really know at all, is very similar to getting to know your patient, so that you are able to identify where the value of physical therapy might be in their life and make it meaningful for them to want to carry on. Because rarely do you go for physical therapy and you're done and the door is shut. Mostly you're going to have to continue with your exercise programs after your therapy is done. So it's really important to hopefully make it meaningful and let them see the value of continuing to stay physically active and to keep their body in as good a shape as you can. So that's probably the closest association I could say between having strangers get together. It's similar to that way when you're meeting a new patient as a physical therapist.
And you don't know what to expect from the people, from the guides, and from the mountain. So I think a portion of curiosity and adventure needs to happen as well.
I would agree with you there.
And any comparison with the marathon running?
Oh, didn't we say marathon running was easier, or did we say it was harder?
I don't remember. Either easier or harder. Maybe it was the altitude. We don't remember.
Comparing it to a marathon, I'm going to say, I remember having a strong opinion right after climbing the mountain. I think it's easier because the training wasn't for so long. That's pretty much it. You know, you're done in 10 days, but you're doing a little bit and a little bit. I don't remember it being harder than a marathon from a stamina perspective and from a physical perspective. It might just be harder because you're in a new world that you're not familiar with.
We know in marathon training, we have 3 months of training. It feels like we train every other day or every day. So it's a long way, a long journey. And in Kilimanjaro, within 10 days, 12 days, you're done. So you're on top of the mountain and then you go down fast and that's the end of it.
But a little bit more time thinking about it. One of the aspects of doing the climb was having to wake up so early every morning. I wrote in my journal that we were getting up at 4:30 to leave at 5:30. And then we would have all afternoon with some time on our hands to just relax. So it was just a matter of, I didn't have to do that for marathon training. I had my own schedule that fit into my lifestyle. I had to fit into the guides' time frame, what they thought was going to be best for us to be successful to get to the top. So that was something that was a little tedious. And getting in and out of a tent, I have to say that I'm never going to go camping for 10 or 12 days with the tent where I have to go down and zipper and go up. And I think I need a bit of a platform. I could go camping for a weekend easy, 5 days easy, 10 days. I'm not so sure because it was a little pup tent. Remember, we had to stay low and do a lot of crawling.
Yeah. And we had the bags inside. So you have a tent, you have 2 people and 2 bags. And then it felt like every time we arrived, it was like packing, unpacking, unpacking. And then I don't find this. What about this? Remember in the morning when they came, what did they say? Hello, Aileen, Suzanne, good morning. Or there was something that was so soothing. And one time I remember, I think it was in the afternoon when they brought that little bucket of water and we cleaned ourselves up as much as we could. And the guy came and what he said was like, ooh, And I was like, I'm sorry, we're dirty. But it was just so came from his heart. And I just see his face like he's like, you two are a little dirty here today.
I don't remember that.
And I want to say, I will share the most beautiful picture of Aileen having a coffee. I'm wondering what went through your mind sipping that coffee. I remember the people were rushing and you just said, let me just have my coffee.
I think people were rushing ahead of schedule. I think we had to leave like at 2:00, let's just say, and people wanted to go 10 to 2. And I was going to sit there and use my time as I wanted to in that particular moment and have my coffee. And it was nice that they all left the tent. I got to enjoy it on my own. It wasn't my intention. My intention was not to leave my coffee unfinished, but it's how things work out.
Certainly a cool experience. I would not want to miss that. And thank you for having me as your tent mate. And I know I had to get up every night more than once. And you were very patient with me, not saying, come on, stay in the tent.
I had no problem with that, Susan. Now, if you were snoring, then we'd have a problem. So the two of us didn't snore. It was like a match made in heaven. I think people were jealous that we had the companionship, that we also had the warmth in the tent at night because there was 2 bodies instead of 1. Separate sleeping bags. Oh, that was part of the problem too. Those mummy sleeping bags. I couldn't really get comfortable because you have to stay like with your feet together and you can just roll over like a log. And I like spread out, but not that it was a problem. It was just an adjustment.
Fantastic trip and fond memories. And when I look at those pictures, they always make me smile. Let's plan for the next trip.
Absolutely. Maybe. It's been wonderful to bring up these old memories and put a smile in our heart and soul for what that was like. It really was a special event. Thank you.
Thank you. How cool was that to hear from Aileen what her experiences were? And it brought a lot of laughter into our lives again, even after many years. What are you taking away? Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Chime in. There's something for everybody. And don't forget to order Get Loopy. GetLoopy.com. You can get 20% off of your first order. And Take It from the Ironwoman is also a book. You can get it on Amazon as an ebook or a paperback. Take It from the Ironwoman. Chime in next time. Thank you.